They called her a parasite, a shadow feeder, a remnant of a failed species left to rot beneath the dunes. The official orders were clear. Do not interact, do not sympathize, do not deviate. When the humans arrived as part of the cleanup force on the desert moon of Ralvan 9, she had already been caged for weeks, bound beneath the broken towers of an ancient temple with chains fused into the stone. She hadn't moved in days. No food, no blood, no light. Just the dry wind and the sound of boots marching past, pretending she wasn't there. The soldier was just another human in another war. His armor was scratched, his shoulder bore a mark from a unit that no longer existed, and he obeyed orders out of habit, not loyalty. When his squad passed by her again, he looked. No one else did. She looked back, not with hunger, but with the kind of silence only the dying possess. Her eyes weren't red or glowing. They were black, flat, bottomless. He asked why she hadn't been executed. They said she was bait. They wanted to see if she'd break. If she fed, they'd record it, study it. If she didn't, she'd starve, and they'd log that too. They laughed about it. He didn't. The ruins stank of old wars and fresh metal. Every patrol, every scan, every checkpoint was meant to keep the Nocturni out. But there were no more Nocturni. Only her. She wore the blood mark burned into her skin like a crown of shame. Every soldier knew what that meant. Unstable. Contagious. Lethal. He looked past it. She didn't beg. Didn't speak. She sat against the stone wall, chained at the neck, chest rising and falling too slowly for anything still alive. He smuggled a water vial on the third day. Tossed it when no one was looking. She didn't touch it. He returned that night, this time with his palm sliced. A drop of his blood mixed with the water. Only then did she move. Her fingers trembled, curled around the vial like it was molten. She drank in silence. She stared at him after. No questions. Just understanding. As if no one had ever done that before. Orders came in for another sweep of the lower ruins. He volunteered. Not for glory, not for escape, but for time. Time to figure out what he'd done. The patrol took 4 hours. He killed 3 sand serpents, disarmed a dormant mine, and used the confusion to slip another vial near her. This time, she nodded. Barely, but it was there. He saw the chain marks on her wrist. Deep. Permanent. Someone had enjoyed her suffering. He didn't ask who. They monitored her with drones. He knew. He studied their blind spots. Knew when the guard rotations slacked. She never asked him for more. Never pleaded. She waited. The kind of patience only the truly broken possess. When the scout caught him crouched near her chains, the soldier didn't hesitate. The knife was silent, fast, final. He buried the body beneath a broken turret housing and cleaned the blood with his sleeve. No hesitation. No turning back. He told her the truth then. If she ran, he'd be marked a traitor. If she fed, he'd kill her himself. She didn't nod this time. She simply watched. And for the first time, he believed she wouldn't run. She spoke her first full sentence the next morning. Her voice cracked like old metal. She asked him his name. He didn't answer. Not out of secrecy, but because it no longer mattered. What mattered was the escape. He gave her a datapad stolen from a dead tech officer. Inside it was a map, guard paths, and a timed unlocking code. He explained it in short, sharp sentences. Her chains would release during a 30-second window when the drones rotated. After that, she'd be on her own. No backup. No help. He watched her disappear into the ruins that night, silent and unseen. The chains lay where they fell. No alarm sounded. No one died. She kept her end of the deal. The body of the scout was discovered 2 days later. Forensics showed signs of blade work. Human, not alien. His patrol logs were examined. His datapad missing. His connection to the missing blood-marked woman quickly surfaced. They dragged him from his bunk. Stripped his gear. Branded his record. Collaborator. Enemy sympathizer. He said nothing. He was locked in a holding cell deep beneath the command tower. They didn't torture him. That would come later. For now, they wanted answers. Why help her? What had she promised? He stayed silent. The commander gave him one last chance. Confess, they said, and he might be reassigned to a penal unit. Refuse, and he'd be executed quietly. No trial. No burial. No unit name on the memorial wall. He stared through the glass and said one sentence. She didn't deserve to die like that. No more. They beat him after that. Not to kill. Just enough to remind him of the rules. Enough to leave him bleeding but breathing. On the fourth day, the bombing began. Rumors spread that a Nocturne crypt had been found beneath the sand. Thousands in stasis. Thousands more unaccounted for. Some blamed him. Others said she'd led them there. No one knew. He was moved to a transport for execution. No formal charge. Just disappearance. The transport never made it. Sand devoured the engine. Blades carved through the guards before anyone fired a shot. The last thing he saw was black hair whipping through the air and armor carved from night itself. She came back. Alone. He woke in a cave. Ancient stone. Faint glow. Her face above his. No chains. No fear. Just her hand pressed against his chest, heat and pressure. She said he'd given her a choice. Now she returned it. His wounds were sealed with something not quite blood. Not quite medicine. His muscles screamed. His body refused to obey. She waited. When he stood again, he saw the truth. This wasn't about one soldier or one prisoner. This was about something the galaxy had forgotten. Mercy. And how dangerous it becomes when given to the wrong species. The human began walking again, one step at a time, following a creature every protocol declared his enemy. She led him to a collapsed tunnel mouth, where old scripts lined the walls. She didn't translate. Didn't need to. The way she touched the symbols said everything. They were hers. And they had been buried long before the wars began. She wasn't just bloodmarked. She was the last of her line. A line erased by fear, sealed in tombs of propaganda. He asked her how many were left. She didn't answer. Not because she didn't know, but because even one was enough. He asked what she wanted now. Her answer was simple. To make them remember who we were. Before she vanished, she handed him a shard of obsidian etched with an old symbol. Not a weapon. A crest. The same one burned into her skin. When he turned it over, he saw the mark on his shoulder reflected in the polished black. The same shape. Different centuries. Same war. It had never ended. Only changed faces. He realized then that he hadn't saved her. She had chosen him. And now, the galaxy would answer for that mistake. The cave was older than the war. Older than most things breathing on that scorched moon. He sat on jagged stone, blood still dry on his shirt, watching her move with the silent certainty of someone who'd walked these corridors before the stars had maps. She didn't speak often, but when she did, it was never wasted. She told him the stasis chambers were real, buried beneath a forgotten temple, sealed by her ancestors when the war became unwinnable. The rest of the Nocturne had chosen silence over slaughter. Death over assimilation. The galaxy thought them extinct. She had survived only because her chamber failed. She wasn't the last. She was the first to wake. He asked how many more. She didn't give a number. Just a look. Cold. Focused. Determined. They were still sleeping. Dozens. Hundreds. Maybe thousands. All marked for death the moment they stirred. The orbital satellites were moving. The Galactic Authority had learned of the crypt and scheduled a precision strike. Nothing flashy. Just enough fire to sterilize the sand and remove the question forever. Nocturne don't get second chances. Neither did traitors. His name was now listed next to hers in every command terminal as a threat. They left the cave at dawn, if the pale haze above counted as morning. She moved faster now, no longer weakened by starvation. The blood he had given her had done more than revive her body. It had anchored something inside her, something she thought had died. He didn't ask what. He didn't need to. The ruins they crossed weren't just ancient, they were sacred. Her footsteps never faltered. Each stone told a story he couldn't read. She touched carvings with reverence, symbols of her people before the fall, before they became nightmares in the galactic mind, before the word vampire was synonymous with extermination. He asked what caused the war. She paused at a broken obelisk and said one word: betrayal. Her kind had once served as guardians for one of the early galactic races. They were bred to control psychic corruption, to contain the side effects of certain forbidden technologies. They were never meant to be soldiers. But power changes minds, and minds change quickly when profit is threatened. So their loyalty was twisted into hunger. Their discipline became fear. The bloodmark wasn't part of their species. It was a scar engineered by those who needed monsters to blame. She had never killed for blood. She had chosen starvation over instinct. That made her dangerous. It meant her kind had a choice all along. And the galaxy couldn't allow that kind of truth. They reached the outer threshold of the stasis crypt by nightfall. Twin statues lay shattered at the entrance. Once they had stood watch with blades of folded obsidian. Now only dust remained. Inside, the cold hit them instantly. Ancient tech flickered to life as her presence was recognized. DNA keys, bone readers, ritual sensors buried beneath stone. The chamber didn't trust him, but it obeyed her. The pods were aligned in concentric rings, each sealed in a translucent crystal resin that pulsed faintly. Some were cracked, some were already empty. She moved among them like a priestess returning to her temple. No dramatics, just purpose. He examined the central console, a battered relic running code in a language that hadn't been spoken in 10,000 years. She placed her hand over the controls and waited. The system scanned her blood and flickered green. Revival would take 4 hours. He asked if they would be the same when they woke. Her silence answered everything. The orbital strike would come in 5 hours. They had 1 hour to prepare a defense. He found old turrets buried in the lower level, rusted and half dead. With her help, he rerouted power through external battery packs and cannibalized drone cores. She wasn't a technician. She didn't need to be. She knew where the energy flowed, how the machines breathed. He handled the rest. As the first pod cracked open, a long breath echoed through the crypt. The sleeper inside was small, barely adult, pale, eyes sealed shut. She helped them up gently, speaking in words the soldier didn't recognize. The sleeper cried. She held them, then moved on. More pods opened. 10, then 20, then 50. Some staggered. Others collapsed. No one screamed. Even in rebirth, they were quiet. He watched her work, a woman once chained and starved, now leading her people from sleep to survival. Each step she took added gravity to her presence. She was no longer just one of them. She was the symbol they thought they'd lost. He coordinated with a few newly revived Nocturni who still had combat instincts. Their movements were fast but untrained. They had lived in peace before their sleep. War had not been part of their bones. But survival was. He set traps across the dunes. Improvised claymores. Signal jammers. EMP flares made from repurposed medical injectors. She did not question his choices. He did not explain them. She had her way. He had his. The satellite ping came sooner than expected. The orbital ship had dropped out of stealth to begin the strike run. A forward team would arrive in minutes. He loaded his rifle, checked his knife, and prepared to die. The first wave landed hard. 6 drones, 2 exosuits, 1 command node with live-feed visuals for the higher rank. No prisoners expected. No mercy ordered. They activated the first trap as the drones advanced. A sandblast charge detonated, blinding the sensors and forcing the suits into manual. He moved in fast. 2 clean shots. 1 broken mask. A shattered throat. The rest fell to the shadows. She didn't feed. Not once. She disarmed 1 exosuit herself. The soldier watched her disable a machine built for planetary sieges using nothing but momentum, misdirection, and precision. She didn't revel in it. She finished it and moved on. More pods opened. Another 100 joined them. Some too weak to stand. Others alert. Eyes glowing with inherited memory. He told them they had one chance. One moment to vanish or be seen forever. They didn't speak. They followed. They moved through canyons older than time, guided by echo maps she remembered from before the fall. The crypt closed behind them, sealed again with genetic locks. Only this time there were more than one set of prints registered. His was one of them. She made sure of it. The orbital cannon struck the temple half an hour later. The galaxy reported a successful cleansing. Confirmed death toll, 0. No bodies. No fragments. No evidence of resistance. They were declared extinct once more. He sat beside a campfire the next night, surrounded by the scent of burnt ozone and desert wind. She stood beside him, watching the stars shift. She asked what he would do now. He said he didn't know. She told him she had plans. Not revenge. Not retribution. Just truth. The truth that her people had survived by choosing restraint, not savagery. That a human had broken ranks not for gain, but for conscience. That the galaxy had gotten it wrong for centuries. He told her the galaxy wouldn't listen. The skies over Varnaxis bled fire and smoke as the last of the planetary shields crumbled. Above, Imperial dreadnoughts patrolled like vultures waiting for the last breath. On the surface, a lone human soldier stood between death and something worse. Voss Laren had never been assigned a mission like this. Classified drop. No squad. No coordinate. Just a command: find her. Secure her. Or die trying. No further explanation. He'd expected insurgents or high-value defectors. What he found instead was a half-dead creature pinned under rubble, bleeding silver blood and whispering words in a language older than most suns. Her skin was ash-pale, her breath shallow, her fangs cracked. When their eyes met, she didn't plead. She just looked ready for death. Voss wasn't religious, but something about her struck deeper than logic. She was alien, clearly not human, yet broken in a way no enemy deserved. He dug her out and hoisted her over his shoulder. For 3 kilometers, under constant fire, he carried her. Not one drone spotted them. Not one scout noticed. Either luck or something else was at play. She didn't speak until they were safe. Why? Was all she asked, weak and disbelieving. Voss didn't answer. He didn't have one. All he knew was that leaving her would've made him something he couldn't stomach. She wasn't just some exotic species. She was a prisoner of war, forgotten by all sides. Tortured. Left for dust. The med unit tried to classify her. Their scanners failed. DNA? Anomalous. Blood chemistry? Off the charts. Bioenhancements? None detected. Her name, once she could speak, was Silari. And she wasn't a vampire. That was human mythology trying to grasp something more ancient. Her people, the Valakar, had once ruled empires beyond the galactic rim. But they'd been shattered, betrayed, hunted. Now only a few remained, hiding, surviving. She didn't trust him. Not at first. She observed everything. Watched how humans treated their wounded. How they treated their enemies. How they argued about ethics in war zones. Silari had never seen anything like it. Her own people taught her that weakness was to be hidden, that mercy was a liability. But the humans kept showing it like it was a badge. Voss wasn't trying to prove anything. He was just doing what made sense to him. But every time he brought her food, medical supplies, or even just silence, something shifted. She stopped recoiling. Started asking questions. And eventually started helping. When an ambush hit the camp, she didn't run. She tore through 3 of the enemy before they even saw her. She was faster than bullets and more precise than drones. The humans didn't know how to feel about her. Some were afraid. Others fascinated. Command wanted to dissect her. Voss sent one reply. She's not property. Try and take her, and you'll need a new outpost. Surprisingly, they backed down. Silari began learning rapidly, languages, human tech, combat tactics. But what truly shook her was the art, music, literature, emotions that weren't weaponized. She said humans were terrifying not because of their strength, but because of their ability to love through pain, to joke through trauma, to hold the line for people they'd never met. When Voss took her into the field, the results were undeniable. She could sniff out cloaked enemies, disable energy fields with nothing but a hum. When asked how, she said, "The Empire stole these tricks from my people centuries ago. I'm simply taking them back." With each mission, she stopped being a guest and became something else. A partner. They took on missions no one else would. Suicide drop. Infiltrations into mind-broken war zones. Voss became known as the Ghost's Hand and she the Ghost. Enemies feared their silhouette. Empires posted bounties. The Council declared them an anomaly, unstable, unpredictable, lethal. That suited them fine. But not everyone was pleased. A splinter faction of the Valakar still existed, bitter, fanatical, and obsessed with restoring their empire. They saw Silari's partnership with humanity as betrayal. One of them, her own blood brother, tried to assassinate her mid-mission. She didn't flinch. She tore his mind apart before he pulled the trigger, then cried silently in a ship's engine bay for hours. Voss didn't say a word. Just sat beside her. Their bond deepened, not with grand gestures, but quiet trust. He trusted her with his life. She entrusted him with her past. She told him of the time she was captured by the Empire, dissected, burned, rebuilt. Of the children she once protected. Of the empire that rose on her people's bones. He told her of Earth's wars. Of how humans learned too late the cost of arrogance. Of the line between soldier and monster. He showed her a photograph of his sister. A nurse killed in the first wave of the Empire's bombardment. "That's why I fight," he said. "Not for flags. For people." The final test came on the moon of Kryvath 9. A relic world, home to a weapon buried in ancient ruin. The Empire wanted it. The Valakar wanted it. The humans didn't even know it existed, until intercepted transmissions hinted at a convergence. Silari knew what the weapon was. Not a bomb, but a living consciousness, designed to erase memories of civilizations. Her people once used it to wipe their failures from time. She didn't want it falling into anyone's hands. They went in alone. Voss and Silari. Two against an army. They moved like ghosts, disabling turrets, bypassing security, using ancient sigils only she remembered. When the Empire confronted them, she stepped forward and spoke in their tongue. Not pleading, but warning. They didn't listen. They opened fire. They didn't get a second chance. What followed wasn't a battle. It was annihilation. Silari tapped into the forgotten codes of the relic. With Voss guarding her back, she activated the failsafe. Not to erase, but to lock the memory core deep inside the planet's crust, forever sealed. But that kind of power demands a cost. Her connection to the core began unraveling her body. Her veins lit up like starlight, her voice echoing with alien harmonics. She collapsed. Voss didn't leave her. He carried her again, just like on Varnaxis, across fire and smoke, until a drop ship extracted them. This time, no one questioned his command. She recovered, slowly. But something had changed. She was no longer a remnant of the past. She was the bridge to a future. The Council tried to interrogate her. She ignored them. She had no interest in politics. Her loyalty wasn't to flags or species. It was to one man. One choice. One moment when someone saw her not as a monster or a weapon, but someone worth saving. When asked later why she stayed with the humans, she replied, "Because one of them reminded me we are more than what they did to us." Voss and Silari disappeared from public records not long after. Some say they operate in the fringe wars, turning entire conflicts before breakfast. others whisper about the child they raised on a hidden world, neither fully human nor Valakar, but something new. The Empire never recovered its momentum. The relic on Krivath 9 was never found again. And in the memory of every soldier who saw them, the image remains: a human and an alien vampire woman standing shoulder to shoulder, not as saviors or monsters, but as a promise that sometimes all it takes to change the course of history is one human willing to help someone no one else would.